Okay, so early 2026, a war just explodes onto the scene, seemingly out of nowhere, right? The US and Iran. But was it really a surprise? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the official story and look at a much more disturbing narrative that's been bubbling just under the surface.
And we have to start with this really ironic prophecy. I mean, check this out. This is Donald Trump, 15 years before he himself launches an attack on Iran in an election year, accusing President Obama of planning to do the exact same thing. He even called it pathetic. You just can't make this stuff up.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at that ironic prophecy. Then, we'll cover the official story, what they told us. After that, we dive into a deeper agenda. The explosive Epstein connection, this greater Israel theory, and finally, we'll lay out the two competing realities side by side. Okay, let's get into our first section. We're going to start at the very beginning, with the event that really just shocked the world. So picture this, February 28th, 2026, broad daylight. The US and Israel launched this incredibly bold series of airstrikes. And the goal? A full-on decapitation strike to take out Iran's top leadership. And it worked. President Trump himself comes out and confirms that the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was killed. And Iran's response? It was immediate. It was furious. Missiles started flying at Israel, at U.S. bases, hitting major cities like Jerusalem and Dubai. And we're not just talking about a few airstrikes here. This was a massive operation. At the same time the U.S. was running Operation Epic Fury, Israel kicked off its own campaign, Operation Roaring Lion. And get this, they called up almost 100,000 reservists. I mean, this was the signal. This was mobilization for a full-blown war. So that brings us to the big question, right? Why? Why did this happen now? Well, let's look at the official narrative, the stated reasons for this war. Okay, so according to the US and Israel, this whole thing, Operation Epic Fury, was about stopping Iran from getting a nuke. They wanted to, and I'm quoting here, raise their missile program and annihilate their navy. The story was that this was about removing an existential threat to Israel and stopping Iran's network of allies, the Axis of Resistance, from attacking U.S. troops. They really framed it as a defensive move, to bring stability. But you know how these things go. The minute the official story dropped, people started questioning it. And alternative narratives started to bubble up. One that suggested the real reasons for this war were, a lot darker. Yeah, so the big question became, is national security really the whole story here, or was something else going on? Leaked intel, insiders, they all started pointing to a different motivation. Maybe it wasn't about an imminent threat at all, but about something else. Hidden leverage, maybe? Political pressure? And this is where things get really explosive. The alternative theory centers around a name we all know, Jeffrey Epstein, and this alleged web of influence and blackmail. So get this, just weeks before the war kicks off, the Department of Justice drops over 3 million pages of files on Jeffrey Epstein. And what's buried in there is absolutely staggering. The documents lay out this theory that Epstein wasn't just some sick predator, he was an intelligence asset, specifically for Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, and his job? To build these networks of influence, to blackmail and control powerful people like Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, even former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. And this right here, this is the core of it. A declassified FBI report from January of that year, with a confidential source claiming point blank, U.S. President Donald Trump was compromised by Israel. The allegation is that through Epstein's network, they had leverage over him, financial, personal, you name it, and that this was how a foreign power could exert influence right inside the Oval Office. Now, we have to be super clear here. The White House came out and forcefully denied all of this. They called the allegations unfounded and false. But you can't ignore the timing, right? The Epstein files drop, and then boom, a sudden war with Iran. It's that sequence of events that has so many people speculating that this war wasn't a choice, but maybe the result of being backed into a corner. Okay, so if this blackmail theory holds any water, the next question is, why? Why force a war with Iran? Well, that leads us directly to this idea of the greater Israel theory and a window of opportunity that was supposedly closing fast. So what is the Greater Israel Project? Well, it's this theorized geopolitical goal for Israel to expand its territory and its influence all across the Levant and the Persian Gulf, basically to become the undisputed dominant power in the region. And according to this theory, there's one huge obstacle standing in the way of that goal: Iran. Take Iran off the board, and the path is clear. And here's the kicker. There's a sense of urgency. Critics like Tucker Carlson argue that according to some Israeli strategists, there was only a 3-year window to make this happen. The thinking was that the political landscape in America was about to shift, big time. Future presidents might not be so supportive. So, for them, the Trump administration was their last, best shot to pull this off.
So here we are, left with two completely different realities. Two competing explanations for why this war even started. Let's just lay them out. On one side, you have the official reason, a preemptive strike to neutralize very real threats to the U.S. and Israel. Simple, clean, about national security. And on the other side, you have this alternative theory, a war that was kicked off by political blackmail, all in the service of a long-term Israeli strategy to reshape the entire region. So it all leaves you with a pretty profound question, doesn't it? In a world of secret files and public statements, how do we ever really know the truth about why a war begins? It makes you wonder, when the drums of war start beating, how much of the real story are we, the public, ever actually told?